This is Sandi Maki, and it's time for a little bit of heavy breathing just before midnight. It is technically 12:07 a.m. Anyway, I've been sitting here for the last maybe 20 minutes or so trying to figure out which topic I would like to talk about today. I've got my website with some draft posts started, so I was clicking through those trying to find something inspiring that I thought I could ramble on for a bit about tonight. It's funny, when I'm looking at the topics, nothing seems to jump out as something that I'm really inspired to chat about. And then I hit the record button and something else just engages and I ramble on, sometimes going somewhere profound and sometimes going nowhere, just like this one. Or is it really? I think sometimes we have too many expectations about having a destination in mind before we start the journey. And isn't that just applicable to life? So for me, I suppose hitting the record button is just the same as you starting anything, starting a journey where you don't know the exact destination, but you're doing it because of the experience, because it's just something that you feel compelled to do. I feel compelled to chat with you about random and interesting things. Some days I'll have a clear destination in mind, and sometimes I'll just hit the button to see what happens. And then if I get to go back and re-listen to what I've shared, sometimes those are the very best days. I suppose I could use this time for a little bit of housekeeping. Not that there's a lot, but if you are listening to this and you haven't yet subscribed, either via iTunes or via the website sandimaki.com, take a second to do that. It helps me to know how many people are listening, and it'll help you stay on top and be sure not to miss a beat. I got some very cool and interesting news today from my brother who lives in Alaska, in case we were confused about which one of my brothers it would be. I do have 4. Anyway, my brother in Alaska, while he was in town visiting, had listened to a heavy breathing episode with me, the one about new pairs of socks. It was pretty cool listening to it with him, and we had listened to it because we were having a conversation. We were talking about fuzzy new socks, and I said, hey, I've got a heavy breathing episode about that. So we listened to it, and it was pretty cool and interesting. Well, the text that I got from him today was, hey, I listened to another episode. So I said that I would put some random and fun encrypted messages into future recordings. So here you go. It's really not embedded this time. I'll just out and out say it. Thanks for listening. I'm really glad that you are. I've also encouraged my kids to listen to some of the episodes. I think that my kids listen into a lot of what I have to say, and they absorb a lot more and retain a lot more than I would give them credit for. I don't know if you've noticed this in your life with your children. I would imagine that it's the same. Kids are so inquisitive, and they're wondering how all of these pieces of life go together. And if we're careful, some of us may be more careful than others, we will put the majority of good and positive things in front of them. And if we're not so careful, they may pick up on things that we would rather they don't. Last week, a topic that was on my mind was that of bullying. I follow the blog Single Dad Laughing, which I think is a very cool and inspirational site. And his topic last week was on bullying. He was talking about his experiences as having been bullied as a child and the lasting impact that some of those things made on his life. So then I started pondering bullying and wondering, what's the rest of the story? Because for someone to be a bully, there's got to be something going on in their life that creates the place that they would find themselves to have to pick on somebody who wasn't quite the same as they were. I'm not quite sure. I know there's probably a lot of reasons for bullying. And on that same token, for someone to be bullied, there's got to be a place where they are in their life that allows that to happen. And I was looking at bullying from all different aspects, whether it was from the perspective of the person being bullied or the person who was the bully. And as with everything else, I think it always comes down to communication. Communication about what our wants and our needs in our life are, and how they can be fulfilled, and how maybe they're sometimes not being fulfilled. Let's take an example of a child who is a quiet, maybe phlegmatic personality, if you are familiar with the personality study. A quiet phlegmatic who wants to fit in and wants to have friends, but isn't a self-starter and isn't bossy like the choleric. A phlegmatic child, I think, would often be the child that's picked on for no apparent reason. Sometimes I think even if we call something bullying, it may not be that extreme. It may be, a choleric bossy child is bossing around another child who doesn't have that same personality mix. And that could, in some cases, definitely be interpreted as bullying. In some cases, it could be interpreted as children playing together, depending on how you look at it. And on that same line, someone who's being a bully may be roughhousing or maybe playing in a manner in which another child isn't familiar and isn't comfortable. So yes, there definitely does need to be some discussion about bullying. Yet I think maybe in some cases it's taken to extremes, and sometimes what could be perceived as bullying may be just not understanding each other. So if you've been involved in this, if you currently have any experience with this, I encourage you to talk about it. Have a dialogue, both with the bully or the being bullied, and find out really what's at the root of what is going on. I know there's a lot of talk about bullying in the news media and on the internet and in lots of different circles. I wonder if we're asking the right questions in our society and in our culture. And I wonder if we are giving children and adults the right tools to deal with this. I think sometimes the bully needs just as much help, if not more, than the person being bullied. Think about that. A child that feels like they need to lash out at someone else is only doing that because of, more often than not, it comes down to fear of something in their own life. So look at family situations, which are not all the same. Look at living conditions. Look at living situations. Look at coping mechanisms. Is the bully child smart intellectually? Are they smart and talented in other ways? Are they being picked on, or do they feel insecure for something that's going on in their life? What are they afraid of? And then when they're involved in something with another child, is it trying to compensate? Is it trying to communicate? Is it just not having the right skills to move forward? There's probably a lot of potential answers to this. I think we need to start asking more questions and having more dialogue.